And we're live. Welcome
What's
to
going on,
Fan versus
Justin?
Pro, everyone. I'm in your seat today, which
Yes,
is
you're in
weird.
my seat because
Yeah,
I am
you're.
out of town. But
Yeah,
um,
I'm.
but yeah,
I'm
we
not
still are
used to
making
being
it
on the
work.
left. It's weird.
Yeah, yeah, and I'm not used to being on the right. So
Well then, we're going to be thrown off the entire show. It's all
I'm
downhill
pretty
from
sure we
here,
are.
guys.
Yep, yep. So Justin, how was your week?
Nuts, absolutely nuts. I've because my sister's coming to town next week. Actually, I'm not sure. Hopefully, we'll still be able to do a show. I'll have to let everyone know. Um, but yeah, my sister's coming to town on Saturday, and she's staying for like 5 days, which means I have to take some time off, and I have a whole shitload of stuff to do. So I have to try to get ahead of
You
it. And
haven't had like a week without family or friends in quite a while.
well, this is winter, late winter in LA because nobody wants to be where they're at if it's not LA. So everyone decides to visit right around now.
It's terrible here. On the way to where we're at now, freezing rain. So I had to drive like 20 below the speed limit, and just not a good time. But it's also not
No.
like freezing cold either. You know what I mean? It's just it's like weird. Like the rain is cold, but temperature wise, it's like maybe 35, which is doable here. I can wear shorts right now.
You wait. You wear shorts when it's 35 out?
When I was in college and high school, I didn't start wearing jeans until I became a dad. I would wear shorts in knee high snow, no matter what. Always shorts and a t-shirt, no matter what.
What are you, a fucking Japanese elementary school kid? That
Probably. I mean, look at the stuff I like, but I think it's
touche.
because I always worked. I was always in a kitchen, so the time I was outside, it was very brief.
Right.
So, but there was a couple times
And
where I had to walk
you were
like,
big back then, so you had more insulation.
yeah,
Yes, I got a spit
yes,
take. I got a spit take. My
you
day is
did.
made better.
Actually, now that I've got a nose piercing, doing that is a lot worse than what it usually
Yes, that made me happy. Um, but no, I'm working. I'm working tirelessly on a secret project. I've told you about it privately, but we haven't announced it. We're not going to announce it till Otakon, but it's pretty big, so I can't wait
I
to
think
tell
I know
everyone
exactly
about
what
it.
you're talking about.
Yep. And so yeah, there's a lot of pre-production work for something big we're working on. But also there's let's see, my usual assortment of 7 discs that are due literally in the next day or two. So I gotta get those shoveled out the door.
I'm
A
excited, man.
a super
I'm
nerd's
excited
work
about
is never done.
that's true. And you guys got what? Rest coming out this month. You guys got that Romance Three Kingdoms show. Govarian's coming out at the end of the month.
Yeah, I know that
Is
one you're
Honey and
looking forward to.
Clover this month or next month?
Uh, s- I,
I think it's this month, right? And then next month
this
is
month is
season
Honey
two.
and Clover. Next month is Honey and Clover 2.
Okay, so I'm super pumped for that. I mean, you guys are. I mean, besides the Ultraman discs, those are the only stuff that I'm looking forward to.
By the
So,
way, guys, if Flip sounds a little glurpy, this because he's on hotel Wi-Fi,
yep.
and
And it's actually
so
decent.
this is actually better than we thought it would be because
Yeah,
God help anyone who has to live their lives through hotel Wi-Fi.
yeah. Especially like putting private stuff. Like if like you're on like Wi-Fi and you're doing like private stuff, people can just get that information relatively easy.
Well, that used to be a thing. Now everything's encrypted.
Is it though? It's
Yeah, HTTPS.
okay.
Yeah, that's
Okay.
encrypted. That said, never hurts to use a VPN if you're paranoid.
Always use a VPN.
You're not on a VPN now, are you?
No, but
Okay,
I when I'm at home, I'm always on a VPN.
right.
Which NordVPN, if you want to sponsor us, there you go.
Hey, Nord, Tunnel Bear, we'll take them all.
Tunnel Bear is pretty good too.
I just think
I
I like Tunnel Bear just because their graphics are adorable.
They are really freaking cute, and then like the sad face the bear makes when you're running out of data.
Oh
It's just
yeah,
it's adorable.
I paid for the
Hey,
unlimited, but these yeah.
I this is kind of off topic, but I went to a Barnes and Noble today, right?
Uh
Now I
huh.
don't know what it is with my Barnes and Noble where I live, but they have an entire section like half the store is dedicated to manga. And I don't know if we have a large Japanese population or what where I live, but I'm
You're a
used to
college
that.
town.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah.
So I go to Barnes and Noble, one bookshelf, like one small bookshelf. I think I had more manga at home than this Barnes and Noble, and it was nothing that's in my demographic. And then, but on the other side of the Barnes and Noble, they had the largest Gunpla selection I've ever seen in my life. I'm talking, they had like maybe 100 different kits. They had Super Sentai kits, they had Ultraman kits, Kamen Rider kits. I was like, they had SH figure arts. I was like, what? I need to leave right now before I go bankrupt because I was like
Right.
picking up kits and I was like, oh my God. But I just thought that was weird how they had
You're such a
no
mark.
manga. Is that like Mark that works for you or like
No, not that mark. That's good though. That's funny.
Mark actually called me out. I was doing a live stream and I was talking about how street smart I am, and he goes, "Flip, you can't talk about that when you have the Transformers DVD box set above your head. You need to." so shout out to Mark.
Oh God.
So tonight's topic is conventions.
Yes, conventions.
So
I'm
we had a
gonna add
couple people after you talked about those really disgusting stories on last episode. We had a couple people say, "Tell us more, like good stories, bad stories. If you could run a convention, how would you run it?" So, if you want to start with a horror story, Justin.
Well, it's weird for me because most conventions, I'm bored out of my mind unless I'm working. Because, I mean, the worst, and for the last several years, I've only gone to AX. It was only last year that I went to Otakon and Anime LA. Actually, I usually check in Anime LA, but it's a smaller con. There's not a whole lot going on there usually. So I'll go there for a few hours and then just go home. This year, Robert Woodhead and Natsume Ueki were there, and they're good people. So I ended up hanging out for much longer than I normally would have. For all of my real gigantic horror stories are either third party or from years and years and years ago. But there are plenty. There are plenty. There's some bad. Do you even go to conventions?
I have been to technically 2 conventions. I've been to a Major League Gaming convention back when StarCraft 2 had just came out, and we went for that. And that there's a couple of stories I could tell from there. And then I went to Comic-Con in the first year The Walking Dead was out, which I think was the year I graduated or the year after I graduated high school. And I have a really good story about that as well. Norman Reedus bought me a shot when I was underage. Flip has never been to a proper. I've never been to a proper anime convention. Because
you can tell I'm in charge of the controls this week.
Yes. which I really want to. I'm gonna try to make it out to Otakon. So
good. Yeah, I'll be there. I just got my plane tickets.
Awesome.
Yeah. Okay, so anime conventions, there's big ones and there's small ones, and they both have very different issues. There's actually, who was it? It was Ashley Fujoshi Princess on Twitter. She wanted me to point out that there are a lot of conventions that make a big deal about being fan-run, fan-oriented. And that actually does make a little bit of a difference behind the scenes, but in terms of the fan point of view, it's probably not stuff they've noticed. Usually that just means that they pointedly don't take money from conventions to be sponsored. They're not sponsored up the yin yang. But in terms of horror stories, the biggest ones I can think of usually involve just ridiculously ill-prepared things going wrong. People not communicating. Not
people
allowing
in their hands.
I mean, you can't blame the convention for that one.
But that is a horror story that happened at
Oh,
a
it's an
convention.
absolute horror story. There was this one time I remember Anime Expo. God, it was a long ass time ago, at least 15 years ago, where they had gotten this really expensive rig to show off all the anime music videos. And this was back when, desktop video was still a new thing. And they encoded the entire thing, but they fucked up one setting and made the whole thing jitter like crazy for the entire running time of the AMVs. It was unwatchable. And so they realized very quickly that it was unwatchable. So they were like in this mad flop sweat trying to re-encode it. But encoding video in those days took hours. So you had these entire like several thousand person auditorium filled and getting increasingly impatient and no show. And they didn't have the wherewithal to go, okay, this is going to take 3 hours. We should cancel this. So they just kind of let the fans just stew there. It was not pleasant. And finally, so fans being fans, they started like folding paper airplanes and, throwing them everywhere. And it just turned into a thing. Finally, now mind you, expensive rented venue with expensive, drop down projection screen and everything. One of the paper fans sticks into the screen and the convention staff freak the fuck out. And this guy runs on stage just incensed. It's just like just in like full angry dad mode. And he's just like, this is a $30,000 screen and it has just been pierced. And and that shut up most of the people in the audience for like 30 seconds, enough for us to go, well, maybe run your show well. They end up having to cancel it entirely.
Where was this?
That was Anime Expo like 15 years ago. So that was the Long Beach Convention Center.
I have a question. Anime Expo usually gets more announcements, but it seems from an outsider looking at it, it looks more of a clusterfuck than like something like Otakon. But
well, of course,
Otakon's
it's a clusterfuck because it's 100.
Massive.
Well, you have to remember. I mean, yes. First of all, everyone in the industry has a love-hate relationship with Anime Expo. That's just the truth.
It's just I thought it was weird that last year I think Viz announced maybe one thing or nothing, and they held off till New York City Comic Con to announce a bunch of shit. Do you think we're going to start seeing stuff like that, like just maybe consolidate into which region's Comic Con, like
let's
East Coast, West Coast?
Let's hold off. First of all, anime cons are always going to be separate from Comic Cons because Comic Cons are so huge and so full of like big Hollywood properties that anime always gets short shrift. Viz has always, for decades, had this big Notice Me Senpai thing going on where for a while, they weren't even doing the anime conventions at all, but especially not Anime Expo, because they were, they wanted to be, mainstream. So they would put all this effort into trying to, get whatever big mainstream magazine to cover whatever Japanese guests they brought over that year. And, usually it was completely pointless because that mainstream publication had no idea who any of these people were and nobody cared. It's like, oh, hey, Spin Magazine, we have Naoki Urasawa coming. And Spin Magazine's like, who? Who are you?
Yeah, why?
We don't care.
Why does Spin Magazine care about Naoki Urasawa?
I don't know. That just one example, but that happened again and again. And finally, Viz capitulated and went back to Anime Expo. The thing that it goes in a cycle. Anime Expo, and to their credit, those kids work really hard. But the way Anime Expo is set up, it very often turns into some sort of there's always some butting of heads. And part of that is just the sheer size of Anime Expo. Anime Expo is 110,000 people. It is as big, roughly, as San Diego Comic-Con.
Holy shit.
It is a terrifying amount of just this massive humanity. Like my buddy Griffin, who's a fairly prominent voice actor, but not big in the community. He went to his first Anime Expo, I think, a year and a half ago, and I was with him, and he was just like looking down in that giant sea of humanity, and just like he almost had a panic attack. He was just like, "This is
That's
too
giving
much."
me anxiety thinking about 100,000 people.
It's a lot, and frankly, I don't do super well with very dense crowds. That's why I don't enjoy Anime Japan or any of those. Mary is just mentioning that she's going to Anime Japan next month, and they're worried that it might be canceled because of all the coronavirus stuff. Hope not.
Oh shit! Is that bad in Japan right now?
I mean, no, but people are panicking. I mean, there's a couple cases in every country, but it's not like pronounced in Japan. It's it's mostly China at this point.
I think it was a Japanese game recently got delayed because they don't want their staff to get coronavirus. I'm trying to think of what game that was, but it was something like that. Like some game was.
Do they have
hey,
a development team in China?
Maybe. I think it might have been Final Fantasy VII. I'm not sure. Don't quote me on that, guys. So.
Well, at any rate, so Anime Expo, so there's that. Anime Expo is huge. And also because LA is the second biggest city in America, B, has a huge Asian American and Japanese population, and C, fairly easy to fly to from Tokyo. The industry, especially the Japanese side of the industry, takes place. They basically use it as a ad hoc trade show. Like that is the show that gets all of the industry attention, and nobody's really super happy about that. Like Anime Expo does take advantage to get sponsorship, so they can do bigger things and invite bigger guests and all that sort of thing. But it's not like it's usually somewhat fractious. The companies accuse Anime Expo almost inevitably of having this holier than thou fanboy attitude, and I heard that complaint for the first time over 20 years ago, and I still hear it. So Viz picking up their toys and leaving, that was a big dramatic show of force that ended up backfiring eventually. But the thing is, when a show is as big as Anime Expo, it's got its own momentum, it's got its own ecosystem, it's got its own weather system, frankly. Anime Expo, believe it or not, is the biggest single hotel booking event in Los Angeles in a given year.
Wow.
Yeah. And just to give you some idea,
weebs.
It is a lot of weebs. And just to give you some idea, Otakon, it wasn't the biggest. I don't think it's the biggest in DC, but it was the biggest in Baltimore. Like, these are giant events that affect the entire, the entire well-being of the city. That they're a huge economic force. So there's a lot of logistics going on behind the scenes that fans just aren't aware of, and they have their own momentum. So even if a show is an utter disaster one year, people will still end up going. It takes a lot to make these shows completely blow up. And so even if a show goes relatively well, there's still a million little fires that most people won't know about. The one that everyone always bitches about is registration, because you try to check in 110,000 people in a 3-day period. It ain't easy. So they always have to subcontract to some logistics companies, and just a little thing like the Wi-Fi going out and everything's screwed.
Now, I've never been in an anime convention, and I've made a list of like maybe 5 I wanted to go to, and Anime Expo has never been on that list. Like, the amount of people scares the shit out of me.
It scares me too. I'm not good with dense crowds. I get a little anxiety. I just go to, like, I'll cruise the dealer room once because it is a gigantic dealer room. gigantic, so it's good to just see everything, even if you don't buy anything. And then if I'm asked to do a panel or two, I'll do those. If there's like one specific panel I might be involved in, like back when I was involved with Anime News Network, I would go to that one. And then there's the industry party, and then I'd leave. In fact, most industry people try not to go to the convention proper at all. They just spend all their time in the lobby of this one hotel having meetings. It's a fancy hotel. It's a very nice hotel.
That's what I would do. I mean, I wouldn't want to be around a bunch of people. Also, okay, so someone asked us this. Do you have any tips on how to stay healthy after a convention? Because I don't know if you know games at all, but PAX. There's always a thing called the PAX flu after people.
Oh yeah, PAX. We call it Confunk. It's a thing.
Confunk. So how do you fight that?
Hand sanitizer. Sleep is the big one, because a lot of people, because there's so much going on, a lot of people are staying up all hours of the night. Compromised immune system. Yeah,
they're like
conventions are amazing places to witness extremes of human behavior. So yeah, people do things like, and they're so excited, and a lot of these people, some of these people are not super socially savvy individuals. So you get people, yes, skipping bathing, skipping eating, and also I've seen people try to skip paying a hotel for a hotel and trying to get in some sleep in the 24-hour video rooms if they still have those.
That's gross.
Yes, it is gross. And I was involved many years ago with Big Apple Anime Fest, which had 24-hour video rooms. And man, after a night, you find some stuff in there in those rooms.
Also, I feel like that would be like a pretty good learning experience for the world. Go to an anime convention and just stay in the 24-hour video room and just see the people come in and go.
I mean, I feel like that's an experience better accomplished with like cameras, not you personally being there. Just stick a night vision camera in there. Way better experience.
Oh Jesus! Like a UV blacklight camera.
Yeah. Oh God, a blacklight. What will you find? What will you find on that carpet?
Hey, so I'm watching The Outsider, and I see this thing on TikTok. Can you really put tape over your camera and put like a certain color Sharpie and have it act as a blacklight?
No.
Have you seen this?
I haven't seen that, but that's not how anything works.
I was like, damn, I kind of want to try that, but I'm also very gullible, so.
This is up there with like people telling you to like drink paint thinner because it's actually a tonic.
True story. My cousin
magical health elixir.
Paint thinner. My cousin at age of 2 drank paint thinner and almost died. It was a huge ordeal. So, but when I went to Comic-Con, I spent literally 99% of my time in the art room, like in like the art section, and people just selling art. And I spent most of my money on art pieces that never went up anywhere. Just like, because you see stuff, you're like, holy shit, that is the coolest picture of Sora from Kingdom Hearts I've ever seen in my entire life. And then you have to buy it. And then the dude's like, hey, if you buy 10 prints, I'll give you like 5 free. And then you end up spending a couple $100 with one dude. And I still have them. I just don't have them framed or anything. They're really nice. But my problem with conventions is just, I get really grossed out by smells, like pretty easily.
Oh, you must love New York City.
I've never been, but okay. I would probably not like it.
Just don't go to Chinatown. It's a thing.
Why? Why does Chinatown smell bad?
Because they have these big outdoor fish markets, and so it's all these dead fish on ice, and so you get that kind of rotting corpse smell as the ice drains in the street. That, though. You're fine with rotting corpse smell.
Sicily has that. So like when we would go to Sicily, all the like fish vendors and everything, you would smell dead fish all the time, and that smell doesn't bother me. I'm talking like people who don't bathe, bo,
Oh yeah.
farts, just
Well,
convention people.
every once in a while you get a whiff at a convention. It's not terrible usually, unless there are two places that anyone going to convention should avoid if they're sensitive to smells. The first one is the arcade game or the gaming room. Usually the tabletop gaming room, and if there's an arcade, because there's usually some Dance Dance Revolution going on, so there's some people sweating profusely and didn't put on deodorant.
I played some Dance Dance today. Actually, went to what's the arcade we talked about last time?
Round
I
one?
can't think of round one. Yeah, we went to a round one that had some DDR, some rhythm-based game. Like they had a whole section of Japanese games, and none of the tutorials were in English, so I just had to kind of like eye it and guess what was going on. But there's this
Round one's great for
rhythm
that.
game. It's amazing. There's this rhythm game. It's a circle with lights all around it, and you have to like hit the beat.
Paradise.
Maybe that's what it is. But I played like 45 minutes of that. I was fucking killing it. I was loving it.
This is so adorable.
Arms,
You're like discovering all this nerd stuff that's been around for like 15 years.
We've never had an arcade near me ever. So we passed by round one last time. We passed by a round one last time, and then we passed by one in the mall here. And I was like, I'm gonna go in. I was like, Taylor, we're going in. And so we go in, and they got the basketball games, but on the left it's like Gunslinger Stratos. They have Street Fighter, Tekken 7. They have Time Crisis, and then they have literally maybe 10 to 20 different Japanese rhythm games. And I played almost every single one. Some DJ game too.
I played the DJ game. DJ game is fun.
Fun.
My favorite weird Japanese game is there's a game where you're a borderline abusive dad, and you have to flip the yukata table really hard to the point where it makes your family shut up.
That sounds awesome.
It's so much fun. I don't remember the name of that, but
have you ever played Gunslinger Stratos?
No, I never have. I keep forgetting that's an actual arcade game. I just remember the anime.
It's so cool. You have two pistols, and the first time I played it, the pistols weren't like aligned properly because my cursors were just like spazzing out. And I was like, "Am I doing something wrong?" So I went to I went to the thing next to me. When you want to do a power move, the pistols actually combine. You snap them together, and then you do like a power shot. That one was a lot of fun. But yeah, I had a good time with some DDR today. It was a good thing. And then some other dance game where it's just there's no like arrows. It's just like a lighted standing area, and then like lights. You have to like kick where the lights are at. It was pretty cool. But if I ever make it out to LA, we have to play some of that. What's that one I liked called?
Paradise. I don't even know where there is one of those around here.
Oh my God.
There was supposed to be one that opened in Burbank, not far from here, but I don't know if they opened or not.
It's such a fun game, and I was actually impressed by like you could just put your fingertips on it and just move it in a circle, and it registers everything.
All right. Oh, here's a good question. I've never been to a con. Are they even worth going to? From Cam the Critic. It depends on what you're looking for, honestly. It used to be back in the day that conventions were a place that you could see stuff that you hadn't seen before that was hard to find. Stuff because there was no way to preview anime without buying it. That's obviously not a problem anymore. And also, it was a place where you could buy stuff that you couldn't find anywhere. That's not a problem anymore either. Pieces. Well, now you know there's that if you want original, fan art or something. But for everything else, I mean, it used to be that you would save up all year just to buy DVDs at conventions. You don't need to do that anymore. Oh yeah, that wasn't that long ago.
You got right stuff now. I mean, animes at Best Buy.
In fact, Mamoru Senpai here brings up a good point. In the old days, anime cons would even play fan subs.
Really?
Well, you have to remember a show wouldn't make it out into the US for 3-4 years. So, if you want to show something hot and new, it was fan sub or nothing.
From an outsider looking in, the only convention I've ever wanted to truly go to is Otakon because of Discotech. But now that I'm friends with you guys, and now I know a lot of like I don't know insider info, I'm not. I really I'm like not that I'm not as excited as I was last year. Like last year, I was like, oh my god, they announced this, but now I'm like, well, I'm excited for everyone else being excited.
Well, in my opinion, cons are still fun if you have two things. The first is an agenda, because if you're not super interested in, like, I've been going to cons for 23 years, and for a good half of that time, I was going to 3+ cons a year. I'm burned out. And I don't care about any of the panels. I don't care about any of the, most of the guests. However, if you're not the burned out old crud like I am, and you look at what a con has going on that year, you're like, oh, I want to go to this autograph session. I want to, go to this panel and that panel. If you have enough to keep you busy, that's great. If also you have friends there that you know from social media, or if you have, I have a whole chunk of friends that I only ever see at conventions, then that becomes invaluable, and that becomes like a must-do thing. That's the real reason why people.
That's also the main thing I want to do too. Now that I'm doing YouTube videos, I've made numerous friends that are just I know them on YouTube, and there's a handful of us that have been talking about we need to meet up for a con, either this year or next year, and we're probably going to end up doing it. But a lot of them are in the UK, so they have to like plan it out and.
Oh yeah, that's tough. Well, at least Otakon would be easier for them to get to.
Yeah, which is the only con I keep saying. I'm like, guys, let's go to Otakon, but they're always like, let's go to Anime Expo.
Yeah,
I'm like, I hate people.
Well, one thing I do have to say, one thing that's gotten better about conventions is we don't see anywhere near as much obnoxious teenage behavior as we used to.
Really? You'd think more.
No, I think the obnoxious teenagery stuff peaked around 2009, 2010-ish. That was the era of the yaoi paddle. That was the era of people doing obnoxious flash mobs to either Caramel Danson or Hara Hara Yukai from Haruhi Suzumiya.
I'm actually really sad I missed out on the yaoi paddle phase.
It was just dumb. It was just dumb. And then they banned the yaoi paddles. Then there was that whole thing with Vuvuzelas.
Oh yeah, I remember. Yep.
Yeah, and people that lasted not even a full convention season, because after the first few cons people brought them to, they were so obnoxious that every convention just banned them, blanket ban.
We had like when those were popular, we would have people bring them into the restaurant, and you'd be in the kitchen, you would just hear, "Bark!" And we're just like, what? Are you kidding me? Yeah, they were everywhere. That wasn't just like a con thing. That was like obnoxious teenagers just loved that instrument for a summer. It was bad.
Yeah, that was the lowest. I think the lowest that the fans have sung to. Caramel Dance and flash mobs were out of control. But if you hate people, cons really can quickly get under your skin, because there's a whole lot of teenagers and kids without a whole lot of self-awareness doing things like posing for pictures at the top of an escalator, or like blocking giant hallways so they can take a big group shot. And it's just like, I just walked right the fuck through that, because that's like, okay, that's on you. You're the one blocking a major thoroughfare. That's not where you take photos. Go outside. I don't care about your fucking selfie.
And you're a big dude too. So like you said that to like a teenager, they'd probably be like, what the shit?
This is where being a big guy with a low booming voice comes in. Actually, you know who's even more intimidating than me is Mike Toole.
Yeah, Mike's voice is.
Yeah, well, his voice is lower than mine, and he's probably like 60% bigger than I am. You know, he is a big dude. Well, no, height. If you were 60% bigger than me, you'd be like 8 feet. But
He sounds like he's 8 feet, so that's like that's
he's a big guy, and I love Mike. He's a teddy bear, but he is a bear. He will fucking maul you.
Before me and you became friends, and I would listen to like Ancast episodes. Sometimes if I didn't know who was on, I could not tell you two apart.
Me and Mike?
Yeah, I could not if I just press play and wasn't like really paying attention, just like cooking while I was listening, I'd be like, is that Justin or is that Mike? I can't tell.
That's funny.
Mike
Mike and I go way back. The funny thing is, like, if I hear the two of us, like, I have such different inflection. I sound much gayer than Mike. Obviously, I'm going to sound gayer than Mike, but I just I don't know. Anyway, I'm very, very self-critical listening back to myself.
No, actually, I think your voice is pretty soothing. Before we became friends, I went through when I was doing research on you for the first Flipcast. I listened to like probably 2 or 3 hours of just Ancast episodes with you on it, and I was like, damn, I could listen to this dude talk forever.
Oh, thank you.
But
so anyway, let's get back on conventions. I don't know where to go with that. Don't compliment the Asians. We can't handle it.
How would you run a con? So this is something that I was supposed to do a panel at a con down south this summer, but the person who was in charge of like our group doing it, he ended up just quitting YouTube. He got burnt out and just stepped away.
Yeah.
But I was really looking forward to it. It was going to be about being on YouTube and growing a channel and growing it relatively quickly. And the form that they gave us to fill out was actually more in depth than I was like thinking it would be. I think it would just be like, hey, pitch us your idea. But it was like, you had to have like a thesis almost. It was like writing a grad school paper. You had to have a thesis. You had to have like multiple paragraphs defending your, like what you're going to do. And then like, it had to be super, super structured. So,
that's for good reason. You should see some of these panels.
Yeah, there's a couple people like Kaiju no Kami who post his panels on his YouTube channel that I listen to. But then I've listened to some panels and I'm just like, where are you going with this? Like, there's no.
Oh yeah, I mean, if you're lucky, they're making a bad point. If you're not lucky, there is no point. And the big problem with panels in general is that, they're fan panels. So that person doesn't necessarily know any more than someone who can just do, a half hour of research on Google.
Yeah.
So,
exactly.
But you have all these very opinionated, self-proclaimed experts. It's basically like a YouTube channel, and, you don't know what you're going to get. And you don't even have subscriber numbers at panels to see. It's like, okay, are a lot of people listening to this guy? Not that that's any measure of quality, but it's something.
But I also feel like let's say I did a convention and I did a panel, and even if no one recognized me, I think if I could pick an interesting enough topic, and the topic like people heard like, that's the history of mecha anime panel. Let's go there.
Mm-hmm.
Like when we went to Comic-Con, there was a couple panels that sounded interesting, but we never went to, but because of the group didn't want to go. So it was my first big con. I didn't want to step away by myself, especially in Chicago.
Yeah.
So, but if I was running a con, like who would if you were as well, who would be like two headline people that you would bring in? Because every anime expo.
Are we talking like Japanese guests or?
Yes. Like two big Japanese guests, because you have to have those for.
I mean, I've been going to Anime Expo for 23 years. I've met most of the cool people. Either that or some of them have secretly shown up to conventions and not to Anime Expo, never told anyone, and I just happen to run into them at the industry party or something.
That's cool.
There's
who have you ran into?
Well, should I just go through the whole name drop list of everyone?
Just like
there's a lot.
What's like the coolest one?
Well, obviously Satoshi Kon. I interviewed him like 3 times.
That's pretty awesome.
There's also Shinichiro Watanabe, Yoko Kanno. Like I've met a lot of people, and embarrassed myself in front of at least, well, several of them. The thing is, it's easy. Conventions are one of those things like the anime companies where it's very, very easy to Monday morning quarterback them. But if you've ever actually run them or been significantly behind the scenes of one, you tend to give most of them a pass because that shit is hard and complicated and a nightmare. And anytime you're opening up a huge event to the unwashed masses, you're going to get some ridiculous, terrible fan behavior. And you have to deal with all of it. You have to deal with the police. You have to deal with, you have to deal with threats, bomb threats. You have to deal with all this crazy shit that happens. It is a logistical nightmare. Okay, so you have 7 rooms in one corridor, all seating 500 people or more, and they're all having programming at the same time. What do you do with the lines? See what I mean? It's just every little detail
put,
that
little
you have
screens out so that they can see what's going on in the actual hall rooms.
Okay, well then you have to have someone programming the screens, and then you have to have someone proofreading all of the text that goes on the screens, and then you have to run networking cable, and then then there's an expense involved in that because you have to go through the union that runs the AV for whatever venue you're using, and et cetera, et cetera, et cetera.
Yeah, fuck that. I don't want to ever run a con. That sounds no. You just
wow, that was easy. That took 5 minutes.
I'm never gonna run a con. That sounds god awful, to put it nicely.
Running it is very tough. It's very tough. But you know what? You see a huge room full of people genuinely excited for something that you're excited about, or even better, something that you worked on, or something that you have some connection to. It is the best feeling in the world. Sometimes.
What was it like last year when you went to Otakon and just saw the massive praise for all the stuff that you've been working on?
That kept me going for 4 months afterwards, honestly.
Was Otakon before or after Cyborg?
It was after. We were selling it at the booth.
So
Cyborg came out last June.
Thank God. You were just like, thank God.
I had people. So I was. Whenever this didn't start out as a thing, but it turned into a thing. So way back in the day when I was at Central Park Media, I would go to usually 3 conventions a year and run the booth. It got me out of work for a couple of days, and I got to, sometimes I got to fly somewhere, and that was cool, especially when I was young and broke. And I got to, be amongst my people and my favorite thing to do, because Central Park Media, so a bunch of it was hentai. So I would stand at the hentai table and ballyhoo it like a Carney Barker. Get your hentai on DVD. It's easier to clean than VHS. That sort of thing. More banging for your buck. Get it while it's still warm, etc.
We had a question. Before I forget this, we had a question about. Someone recently, a friend of mine, bought Cyborg and was like, "Can you ask Justin what he went through to put this together? I really appreciate the disc."
It's on the disc. There's an essay on the disc.
I said, I don't think he wants to talk about it again, so I just redirected.
No, he doesn't.
The podcast you'd done previously. So I just gave him, and then a couple hours later, he goes, "Oh wow, I don't think he would want to talk about that again." I'm like, I'm asking him that.
Done. It's part of my past. It's like after you flee an abusive marriage, you don't want to talk about the marriage.
Well, I've never done anything like Cyborg or an abusive marriage. I wouldn't know how that feels like to just want to get away from. Well, I kind of do. You know what I'm talking
Yeah.
about, but
I'm onto cooler things that I'll be able to talk about after summer. But anyway, I always got a weird thrill out of working the booth, and so now whenever I'm at a con that Selby's at, I will help run the discotheque booth for at least a few hours. It's at least while if Selby has to go off and do something else. Like for example, Anime Expo this year, it's just him and his wife Laura, and they have to, if Selby has to bounce for a few hours to go to meetings because Toei Animation's there, he can't just leave Laura because that booth is huge. And although Laura, you don't want to fuck with Laura, one person is not enough to cover that entire table. So I volunteered a few hours because I'm like, Selby, you need to go to these meetings. And so, yeah, and I had a blast, and it was really fun. And people were coming up to me. It's like, oh, you're the one that finished Cyborg. I'm like, yes. And, it was great. People were so sweet. And I was,
have you ever had a negative interaction with a fan? Like, have you ever had someone come up and been like, hey, fuck you, that disc sucked?
No. During the height of the terrible shit going on last summer with all the the trolls that we shall not speak about by name, people, there were a lot of conspiracy theories, and Mike's name came up a few times, but I never heard that directly because people are chicken shit.
Do you want to answer a few questions? Because we got a few
let's do it.
Random questions for you. Me and my friend Zach from Mutual Shelf, who made our logo, he and I were doing a podcast, and we're talking about the Anime Awards. And someone wanted to know, how do you feel being in the industry that they didn't even mention Kyoto Animation at all? Not a single mention.
Wow, that's a big oversight. I didn't know that. That's embarrassing.
The host did say at the beginning, we've had a lot of good times this year. We've had a lot of bad times, but they didn't, like, you would think as is it the only anime award show in the U.S.? Like, that's the only
in the U.S. Definitely. There's some very low profile awards comparatively in Japan, but there's nothing like that where they're trying to put on like this big dog and pony show.
Yeah, and you would think that with such an not only Kyoto Anime, they lost a lot of people, which is very sad. They lost a lot of work. They're a very prolific team, and they didn't even mention it. And I think my stance was, if they want to be taken seriously and they want this to be a huge thing, because they hype it up like it's this big award show,
right?
They have to kind of start, doing the thing like the Oscars does, where they show the people who passed away, or stuff like that, like more mature. Like, stop with the jokes, because the jokes were kind of bad. Lean into some more serious stuff like that.
Well, I don't watch the Oscars, so I sure as hell was not going to watch the Crunchyroll Awards.
You didn't watch the Oscars this year?
I haven't watched them in 4 or 5 years.
Oh man, I was so pumped when Parasite won.
I was too. I was very pumped, but I read about it on Twitter like a good boy.
Well, my parents were watching it at work, and I kept saying Parasite's going to win, and they were like, no. And then when they won, my parents were like, we have to watch Parasite. And these are two people who don't like subtitles. So
I mean, they just had the biggest weekend ever at the box office, and it's already out on Blu-ray. I mean, that never happens.
And they also announced, I'm kind of pissed. I bought the Blu-ray, but I'll be double dipping for that fucking Criterion release.
Of Parasite?
Yeah, Parasite.
I just found out about that, and I'm like, but I already have disc, and it kind of sucks. But I'll put mine.
I don't like that Rotten Tomatoes thing on the actual cover. It's got that like.
Yeah, it's pretty tacky, isn't it?
Yeah,
and
tacky.
It's the prefab Universal Home Video menu. It's so cheesy looking. I don't think they've updated that since 2007. Yeah, I swear, and actually, Jeff just brought up that why Blu-ray sucks video because like 5 different people tried to get me to watch it, and I got like 30 seconds into it. I'm like,
dude,
nope, fuck this guy.
Jeff messaged me, and like 3 or 4 other people messaged me and like, this should be a topic on the show. And I was like,
no, because that guy sucks, and most of his arguments were, frankly, how badly the major studios treat the format. And yeah, major labels treat vinyl pretty bad too. The big mainstream companies don't understand collector markets. But if you're a collector and you like obscure stuff, and frankly, nobody needs to buy Blu-rays of Transformers movies because you're always going to be able to watch Transformers movies on every streaming service ever. But if you like, content from an obscure Asian island nation, just saying,
or
yes, you want to stockpile it. If we're in an era where we have a ton of everything, but your favorite stuff, maybe you want to have it on a shelf like a old book that you remember fondly, and that's what Blu-ray is now, and that's where it should be, and that's its proper place. That whole era where everyone had that giant wall of mostly terrible DVDs that they never watched because it was a cool thing to have a movie collection, that's over. It's done. That'll never happen again. But I still have my 1,500 plus discs sitting downstairs, and okay, I'm not normal.
But at the same time, there are some companies like Arrow and Vinegar Syndrome and Criterion that are putting out phenomenal Blu-rays, just like fantastic Blu-rays. But like you said, major studios don't know the collector market at all. Like you buy Transformers, or you buy, especially vinyl, man. Vinyl is the worst. As someone who, I don't really want to call myself an audiophile, but someone who worked with vinyl, you could tell that it's just MP3s slapped onto a piece of wax.
Yeah, still, and that major label vinyl sounds terrible. There are two. I have a fairly big vinyl collection, and the 2 records that sound the worst, one was bad enough for me to actually get rid of, was Florence and the Machine and Taylor Swift. I had to have 1980, whatever it was.
I think that's her best album, but
yeah, it's a great album.
My wife has Fleetwood Mac Rumors on vinyl. I think it was Fleetwood Mac. One of the vinyls I got her, maybe it's Lizzo, because I got her Fleetwood Mac and Lizzo. One of those, or both, there is so much cracking to the point where you can tell it's a very, very low quality MP3 that they put on to super cheap wax, and then it's got to be clear or color. It's got to have the specs on it.
Yep, it's all. It's all meant. And the sad thing is, most people buying vinyl are listening to it on those shitty little, Crossley turntables from Urban Outfitters, and have no idea how it really sounds. Like, this is the best. Like, you're an idiot.
I just love how cool it sounds.
but the indie stuff, it's worth buying, and there are some of the old reissues. Like, actually, the best sounding record in my collection, believe it or not, is the Bill and Ted's Excellent Adventure soundtrack.
Really?
That is an amazing sounding record. The thing is, all recent music from major labels are loudness mastering. So you look at the waveform, it's just like a solid bar, and there's no dynamic range difference. Vinyl needs that for detail. It needs that big range of loud and quiet. So if it's just like one giant loud solid block, it's going to sound worn out. It's going to sound terrible.
I find that when I listen to techno, I prefer it to be on vinyl, especially certain techno labels that do it right. You would think electronic music wouldn't sound the best on wax, but it sounds better.
It adds a little bit of human warmth to it.
That song I sent you on Friday or Saturday.
Yeah, that was good. That was good,
dude. It's so good. So I ended up ordering that. I was like, I have to have that on wax. But that's just gonna kickstart my bad habit of buying vinyl, because I have 5,000.
Yeah, you don't buy a shit ton of stuff ever. That's not.
No, I just
You're not a horrible media hoarder.
When I quit playing shows and DJing, that's when I was like, all right, I'm not going to buy records as much because I was buying maybe close to 20 to 30 records a month.
Yeah.
Or people were sending me them. I think the most I had, friends send me. I got 100 records in 1 month, and playing shows with vinyl, my back was hurting all the time because you would have to go into the club knowing, hey, I'm going to play these songs because you have to select them and carry them in a book bag.
Right. Anyway, we're getting way off track.
Oh, yes, we are.
We're getting way off track. Bringing it back to the Anime Awards. Look, the Anime Awards, you have to look at what they are, which is they're a promotional event by Crunchyroll. It got people talking about a number of shows. It gave the fan community, especially, you have to remember Crunchyroll skews younger, so it gave the young and innocent fans some feeling of participation where they got to choose some favorites. And it was, as a celebration of anime and the anime business, you could do a lot worse. Do they really need to hire a writer? Probably. I haven't seen it, but from what I've heard, yeah, they probably need to hire some writers. But honestly, the Oscars are shit at writing. That's why they don't even have hosts anymore. Award shows in general to me feel like they're from a different era. I'm not particularly interested in people congratulating themselves, like an industry congratulating themselves and patting themselves on the back. I'm all for celebrating their work, but that's not really how I would prefer to do it. And Crunchyroll is even stranger because none of those people, for the most part, have anything to do with the anime business. They run it, work at Crunchyroll, but in terms of like actually making the stuff, it's not like musicians and famous directors and actors coming out to give those awards. For the most part, the people behind the scenes are just people at Crunchyroll, which is fine, but it's not the same. And if you're expecting it to be the same, you're going to be disappointed.
Can you guess what won Anime of the Year?
We talked about this off air. Refresh my memory.
Demon Slayer.
Right. And you were incensed.
I don't like, not to shit on, like, if you like Demon Slayer, that's fine. But I find the characters to be very poorly written. I think some of the characters are they make me want to hurt myself. They're so bad. The only good thing about the anime is that UFO Table is a talented group of people. Literally, if you look at manga sales wise, Kimetsu no Yaiba sold like not even 2 million, and then the anime came out and it sold more than One Piece. So the anime literally saved that series. I like, in the year that you have Vinland Saga, which has great animation by Studio Wit. You have great characters. You got Mob Psycho 100 as well. Attack on Titan Season 3. And also, they gave the industry award to the founder of Wit Studio, who has very publicly bragged about how poorly he treats his workers. That was the other thing, is that he bragged about how they live like rats. I think it's like the exact quote. So there's two things that they did that kind of rubbed me the wrong way, was that, and then the not even mentioning KyoAni. Like, so
the Wit Studio thing, I don't have a strong opinion about that because behind the scenes, there's a lot of gallows humor in the anime business. So I do think fans might have taken his comments slightly the wrong way. Yeah, it did come off as callous, but I don't think he quite meant it that way. That said, it did seem a little tone deaf. I don't know. This is one of those things that it's easy to Monday morning quarterback, and with enough concentration, fans could have found reason to be offended by almost any choice.
Which ties into fans being outraged to another question, if you want to briefly talk about it. What's your opinion on the My Hero Academia drama?
The My Hero Academia what?
Drama.
Drama. What drama?
Well, it started off the Doctor in the series is named after something that Japanese people did to Chinese people, some like evil war act, and then now some characters share birthdays with dictators and stuff like just I think by coincidence maybe, but it was a huge ordeal on Twitter. Like people were just freaking out, trying to cancel.
Wow, this completely sailed past me.
I
mean,
I kind of figured it would be.
if you're gonna cancel something that seems like a fairly weak case, just or I mean, I have no idea. I have no idea. I honestly, if I were going to cancel something, I'd need something a little more substantial than that. But
that was my point too. I was just like, I share a birthday with Oprah, and I'm not Oprah, so
I'm offended.
well, are you going to cancel me? It's been tried, Justin. No one can. It's been tried. Does the chat have any questions? Because I can't even see the chat. So
Yeah. Oh, that's right. You're on an iPhone. That's why his audio's not great. Also, is because he's on an iPhone. It actually sounds way better than I thought it would.
yeah.
Yeah.
Well, it's because I got the AirPods in.
All right. So a couple people helping chime in here. People think Bakugo is Hitler because he has the same birthday. That's a stretch. You need a little more to go on than just sharing the same birthday. My opinion.
Asshole. He's not that big of an asshole.
Yeah, and like it's been proven that he has some heart, and I don't think he's said anything bad about Jewish people yet.
No, not yet. So
when he does, maybe that'll raise some more flags. Until then, okay. Japan did a mass murder of Chinese people in the 1800s. Yes, this is irrefutable. And MHA characters area making jokes about it or something. I don't know what the jokes are.
What I gather,
I feel like if they were really doing that, it would be a much bigger deal than people are making it.
I mean, it's kind of like the whole Hajime Isayama and Attack on Titan thing, where people were saying he's a fascist just because his story has fascist elements into it.
Oh, here we go.
Yeah, right here. Exactly
Dr. Murata, the drama that was his name was a term used in World War II for human experiments. The doctor himself was doing human experiments. Okay, that's a little questionable, but is that a villain? I'm a little behind. I'm like 5 episodes behind right now.
I haven't even watched this season.
Yeah,
but yeah, people were freaking out about that. How do you feel about the Attack on Titan stuff?
What is the Attack on Titan stuff? I've been in a work hole this week, okay?
So, no, this has been a thing for a couple of years. People think Hajime Isayama is a fascist and that he is like pro-Nazi because...
Oh, here we go. Name change mangakas apologize. We'll change the name for the graphic novel. Okay, so it's literally the brand new manga issues coming out. You'd have to be reading the weeklies to have seen this. So, okay. If he's apologized, then that's fine, whatever.
But the Attack on Titan stuff is that Attack on Titan has some fascist elements in the story, which like the characters wear the armbands to signal that they are the superior race. But I think Attack on Titan does a good job of showing you that both sides are completely disgusting. Like there's no clear good guys, and Aaron's character goes from being innocent to good guy to being almost a bad guy. I don't want to spoil anything, but to a bad guy. I don't think people were trying to cancel Hajime Isayama over that, his story just having fascist elements.
Also, people have to remember that armbands come up a lot more in Japan than they do in the West. Like, instead of press badges, press have armbands when they're at events. Like, so.
Well, in the plot line, it was to segregate a group of people.
Okay, well that's fair, but it's completely fine to make references to terrible things that happened in the past when telling a fantasy story, especially if you want to draw comparisons. Just
As long as
doing
you're not
that,
glorifying it.
yeah, just doing that doesn't make a story bad. In fact, it can add a lot to it if you do it right.
And I think Attack on Titan is one of the best written mangas ever. Oh shit!
That's
Don't
a
read
good-
a history book, guys. Might turn you into a fascist. Oh fuck! I love history. So that's
Yeah.
cool. That's nice.
Yeah. Actually, this is a good one. Justin, did Disney approach Discotech for the Miyazaki Blu-ray box set? Why'd they use the streamlined dub? Why not the family-friendly manga dub? Yes, Disney did approach Discotech for the Cagliostro's inclusion in the Miyazaki Blu-ray box set. That's actually we gave them the assets. They chose to only use one. We don't know why they chose that one. We basically gave them the stuff and they, and that was that. We never heard from them again. So,
Is the Miyazaki Blu-ray box set getting reprinted by Disney now?
I know
It
that's
came
long
out a
out of
couple
print.
years ago as an Amazon exclusive.
Yeah,
That's the one I have.
it's long out of print. I mean, Disney doesn't have the rights to those movies anymore.
Okay.
Yeah, so that disc is pretty rare at that point anyway. So yeah, that's why I don't. That's why I can comment on that now, because Disney doesn't have those discs anymore. So,
well, do you want to wrap it up for this week?
Yeah, I think that's a good place to call it. Yeah, thanks for joining us. Stay tuned to my Twitter to see if we'll be able to do next week. I think we will be able to, but I'll we'll clarify.
Wait,
later.
do you have something going on?
Yeah, my sister's going to be in town.
Oh yeah. We can take a week off if you want. It's fine.
We'll talk off the air. We'll figure it out, because I don't know what I'm going to be doing with her yet, and all I can promise is that
why don't you bring her on the podcast and we can interview her? What's it like being a brother? I mean, what's it like being a sister to Justin?
That's like a
always been a
5-minute
nerd?
conversation. She'll want to move on. That might be fun though. I'll see what she has to say. At any rate, actually, she's doing a new push for her webcomic that I'd love to plug, because she did the Anime News Nina webcomic that was on Anime News Network for like 6 years. And it had a lot of fans, and she did a book Kickstarter for it a few years ago, and now she's put it on sale on Right Stuff. So she's doing a new push for it right now.
Send me a link so I can buy a copy.
Yeah, I will do. It's good stuff. All right, so that's our show for this week, and thanks so much for joining us. We'll be back probably next week, if not the week after.
Yep. See you guys.
Bye.